Hi everyone, so in today's tutorial I will be showing you how to make really tiny clay faces that I use on all of my charms. So I have actually done a tutorial on how to make clay faces before, and I'll leave that in the description box, but people just keep asking how I make my faces so small, and I did come up with a few tips and tricks that really help me make my little snakes of clay so teeny tiny, so I thought I'd share them with you today. So I'll be making one of these pearl stars today, just so you can see how I do my faces. So I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked it. So one of the things you need to think about if you want to make really tiny faces is the surface that you're working on. Now I find it is so much easier to roll out really thin snakes of clay on a shiny or silicone kind of surface. Now I work on one of these, which is just a silicone baking mat thing. I believe this one's from Sculpey, and it's like this shiny silicone kind of material. Now I have also found that working on one of these, which is just a paper pocket that you put inside of like files and folders and things like that, works brilliantly because it's super shiny. And all I was doing, I was just like cutting it. I was just cutting out a tiny little square like this and just like sellotaping it to the side of my workspace, because this one is a new mat that I got for Christmas, whereas my old one was really old, so it was very dull on top. It wasn't so shiny. So what I was doing was cutting out a square of this and just sticking that to the side of my workspace, and it was just making it so much easier, and the clay just really sticks to your finger and sticks to this, and it gives it more friction when you've got a shiny surface. So definitely make sure that you have the right kind of surface to make really teeny snakes. Another thing you want to think about is your hands. Now this might sound a little bit weird, but I get really dry hands. Right now I'm working really hard on my shop, which means I'm pretty much making clay like 6 to 8 hours a day kind of thing. So my hands are super dry and I'm finding it hard to put the moisture back in. I can't really keep up. However, it is definitely important to keep your hands moisturized, because when my hands go dry, the fingertips, my fingerprint, I guess you could say, the fingerprint is more, it protrudes more, which means I find that really tiny pieces of clay get stuck between the lines of my fingers, which obviously makes it impossible to roll anything out. Also, if your hands are dry, the clay won't sort of stick to it, so you can't get any friction when you're rolling it out. I recommend just using a hand cream. This is from Soap & Glory. It's the hand food. It smells really great and it does the job. You can use obviously whatever you want, but this is pretty cheap and works really well, so I've been lathering my hands up with this recently. So yeah, that's the second thing you want to think about. Make sure your hands are nice and moisturized. And the last thing you want to think about is how soft your clay is. If the softer your clay is, the easier it will be to roll out thinner snakes. So I've just got black and brown because these are basically the only colours that I use, and I sometimes use white. My black is already super soft, and so is my brown. My black is always the softest though. If you have trouble with your clay being really dry, I will leave a link to a video I did on how to soften your clay. That should be up soon, or it's already been posted. So basically what you want to do is just soften your clay as much as possible before it becomes unworkable, if that makes any sense. So not too soft, but you want it softer than usual, because then it's so much easier to roll out the faces. So just make sure you've got a really nice clay and it's really nice and conditioned like this. It's really easy to work with, so that you don't have to worry about it breaking off or anything like that. So yeah, that's the third thing, and now I'll just show you how I make my faces. So the only things you're going to be needing for this tutorial is a very small ball of black clay. You're literally going to use a tiny minuscule amount, but obviously you want a ball of black clay or whatever colour you're going to make the face. Actually, doesn't have to be black, sorry. You're also going to need a blunt needle tool or a dotting tool like this. You can use a cocktail stick, something like that, or one you've made yourself. You're also going to need an X-Acto knife. So that is literally all you need after you've sorted out your workspace, your hands, and also how soft your clay is. So here I'm just going to be showing you how to put a face on this. This is just a little blank star that I made up for this tutorial, but obviously you can use whatever charm you want to put a face on, or whatever you want to work with really small snakes of clay. So before I just jump straight into it, I'm going to talk a little bit about technique. I know this is such a long tutorial for such a small thing, but these are just things that really helped, and it makes making faces so much easier for me and so much quicker, so you don't lose your mind trying to make these tiny little things. So the first thing that I would do is just obviously roll it out into a log or a snake. I'm just going to call them snakes for this video. And then what you want to do is just choose a side. Don't just keep rolling from the middle, because it's just not going to work. You can either choose a side or roll apart. So the technique, like I said, one of the techniques is rolling apart. So you take a finger at each end and then you pull as you roll, if you can see. So you pull as you roll like this, and then what you probably end up with is a bit that's thinner than the rest of it, like this, and then you'd focus on that bit. Or like I said, there's a different method where you would just roll from one end, which is the one that I usually do because it's just easier. So you just roll it into a log again, and then you pick an end and you just keep rolling very gently like this until you get it down to a point like that. So now I'll just get on to actually getting it small enough to start making a face. So some of you might not even be able to get it to this point where you've actually got one side that's thin. Basically what you're doing, I think, is you are all pressing a little bit too hard. You need to be extremely gentle, like literally put your finger on, and as soon as you just about touch it, keep it there, like you're sort of hovering above it, so that you're just gently sort of pushing it rather than properly rolling out. Obviously on this end you want to push it and roll it, but like once you get to this side, you don't need that much friction, you don't need that much weight down on the clay, because it's not going to take much to keep rolling it out. So you really want to be as light as you possibly can basically on this bit, and then sort of keep rolling away, because this is going to weight it, so if you keep pulling it's going to stretch so that you don't have to do so much work on the clay. So now I'll just show you how, well, I'll just try and get it as small as I can, and you guys can just watch, because like I said, there's not much else I can explain about this. And what will happen, this didn't take very long, and what will happen is that usually some of this clay is going to stick to your finger when it gets too small, because when it gets too small it's going to break and it's going to stick to the nearest thing, and obviously that's probably going to be your hand because it's warm and it's, hopefully it's not dry. So yeah, once I get this, I actually put it on the back of my hand, and that's how I work with my faces. This is probably not the best way to do it, because you know, you're cutting, because I will then obviously cut the shape on my hand and that kind of thing, which is not the safest way of doing it. I do suggest you do it on your work mat, but I find that on this kind of colour it's hard to see, it gets a bit hard, but if you've got like a white piece of paper around you, that'll work just as well. But like I said, I will then take that and I'll just really gently place it on my hand like that. I'm really sorry this is so small, it's very hard to see obviously, so as you can see it's right there and it's very small, and I can actually get them smaller than this, but for this tutorial my camera just will not pick it up if I make it any smaller, so I'm just going to be working with this for now. So now what I want to do to, you know, make my face is just cut it to the size that I want it. After I've done this, I don't shape my clay until I put it on the piece, if that makes any sense. So after I cut it, it actually sticks to my knife. I'm not quite sure why it does this, but this is exactly the order that it happens every single time. I roll it out, I cut it, I put it on my hand, it sticks to the knife, and then I use this to place it on my charm. So taking the mouth that is now stuck to my knife, if you can just about see that, I'm just going to place that in between the eyes. After you've done that, all I do is gently press it down so that it's stuck. Now to shape the mouth, again, it's much easier to work on your surface, but I'm just going to do it with my hands to show you because it's quite hard to get the angle when I'm filming. So what I do is take my blunt needle or dotting tool, whatever you want to use, and at about a 45-degree angle, I will push down in the centre so that it creates a U shape or a smile. So I'll just show you how I do that. And as you can see, it's really all about, like, it doesn't need a lot of force. You just need to be very gentle, very slow about it. Don't do anything really fast or rash. You need to be very slow when you're doing these kind of mouths. And just keep going until you get the shape that you like. So something like that. If you've gone too far, if you don't like it, you can always go from the other angle and just push it up or push the sides up, whatever you find you like. So this is the tutorial, and I really hope you enjoyed it. So you just basically need to play around with what works for you, how big you want your mouth, how big you want your eyes. It's all just a matter of practicing and practicing, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this was helpful, and I hope all the techniques helped. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope it really helped. If you do use this, don't forget to let me know so I can check out what charms you've made and all that good stuff. So don't forget to check out my last video and don't forget to check out my shop and all of my social media. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!